All right, strap yourselves in for this deep dive, folks, because today we're tackling a real head-scratcher. We're diving into Alvin Plantinga's How to Be an Anti-Realist and exploring some seriously big questions about the very nature of reality and whether it's, well, maybe not quite what we think it is.
It's a question, really, that's haunted philosophers for centuries.
Right.
Is there, like, a concrete reality out there, separate from us, independent of us, or do our minds somehow play a part in shaping, well, what we experience as real?
So we're jumping headfirst into this concept of anti-realism.
Exactly.
Which challenges this, like, assumption that most of us have, that there's this objective reality out there that exists the way it does, whether we're here to perceive it or not.
Exactly.
And Plantinga, he dives into two main types of anti-realism.
Okay.
The first one, existential anti-realism. That's the simpler one.
Okay.
It's basically like saying, nope, doesn't exist, I don't believe it.
Like, I don't believe in ghosts. Right. Even if you tell me the spookiest ghost story, I'm like, nope, not real, doesn't exist.
You're not convinced?
Not convinced, absolutely.
So that one's a little more straightforward. But Plantinga, he really spends most of his time unpacking this more nuanced and honestly kind of unsettling type, which is creative anti-realism.
Yeah.
And this one, it goes beyond just saying, like, this thing doesn't exist. It's saying that our minds are actively involved in shaping what's real.
That's right.
So it's not just about what exists or doesn't exist. It's how our minds are perceiving and potentially influencing reality.
He uses this example, Plantinga, of how we understand space, right?
Yeah.
Like, we think of space as this, like, objective thing.
Wait, it's just out
there. It's just there. It's three-dimensional. It's, like, a given.
Right.
But creative anti-realism asks this question. What if space is not an inherent property of the universe, but rather a way that our brains make sense of the universe? Oh, wow.
Right. So it's not that it's not there.
Yeah.
But it might not be what we think it is.
So it's like our brains are imposing a certain structure onto,
in a way,
this reality.
It's like our brains are almost like, I don't know, putting on a virtual reality headset. And saying, okay, this is how we're going to experience the universe.
That's a really wild thought to consider.
It is a wild thought.
And it's really making me rethink some fundamental assumptions.
Absolutely.
Now, Plantinga, he dives into all this.
Yeah.
But he isn't completely sold on some of the simpler forms of anti-realism.
He's not fully on board.
So he's got some critiques.
He does, yeah.
And he lays out some pretty compelling arguments against some of the more common ways of thinking about this.
He sees flaws in how anti-realism is often presented.
Okay, so he's not just dismissing it outright.
No.
He's saying, hold on, there are some things here that we need to address.
Exactly. There's more to it. There are some loose ends.
Yes. Definitely.
So if our minds are, like, creating at least some part of reality, it makes you think, like, what are the rules for that, right?
Yeah.
It can't just be, like, a free-for-all.
Right. There's got to be some limits, some structure.
Yeah, exactly. So how do we even begin to understand those limits?
Well, that's a key question. And Plantinga, he actually takes issue with this idea of verifiability as the ultimate test of, like, what's true.
Okay.
It's a view that philosophers like Putnam and Rorty, they really champion this idea.
Okay.
And Plantinga, he's got some bones to pick with it.
Verifiability.
It's a mouthful.
Yeah, it's a mouthful. For those of us who haven't, spent years in philosophy lecture halls.
In the ivory tower.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Could you break that down a little bit?
Yeah, so basically verifiability means that something can only be considered true if we can prove it.
Okay.
Right.
Gotcha.
Like through observation, through experiment.
So I can't just say, like, oh, unicorns are real.
Exactly.
I just haven't,
I haven't found one yet, but they're out there.
They're out there.
Right.
I just haven't found the proof.
Exactly. You need that tangible proof, that demonstrable reality.
Okay, so it needs to be grounded in something.
Exactly.
That we can at least
something we can experience
directly.
Okay, I get you. So for people who are really into verifiability, that idea extends to pretty much everything that we believe about the world.
So they're really holding every belief to this standard.
To that very high standard,
of proof. Wow.
Yeah.
But Plantinga, he sees a problem.
He does.
With just relying on verifiability as the, like,
The end-all be-all.
Yeah, the ultimate truth.
Right.
She argues that, like, even if we had, like...
Even if we had this perfect theory...
Yes, okay.
That, like, explains all our observations flawlessly, it could still be wrong.
Wow.
And this is what he calls the ideal theory paradox.
Ideal theory paradox.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so, like, even if everything looks like it lines up...
Yeah.
It still could be.
It might not be the whole picture.
Totally off.
Right.
Oh, man, that's a mind bender.
He uses this great thought experiment to kind of illustrate this.
Yeah.
Imagine, right, the universe was created just 15 minutes ago?
Wait, what?
15 minutes ago, exactly as it is now.
So with all of our memories, like everything.
Everything.
History books, fossils.
Fossils of dinosaurs?
Dinosaurs never existed in this.
Never actually roamed the earth.
Oh, my God.
But we've got the fossils to prove it, right?
So we have all this, like, evidence.
Seemingly verifiable evidence.
Right, that points to this past that didn't actually happen.
That never actually occurred.
Oh, my gosh, okay.
So it would look like it would fit perfectly.
Right, it would pass the verifiability test.
Exactly.
But it wouldn't actually be true.
It wouldn't reflect the ultimate reality.
That's kind of creepy, honestly.
It's a little unsettling, right?
It is.
Because it makes you question, like, what do we really know?
Can we trust our own perceptions of all?
Exactly. And that's what Plantinga is getting at. He's pointing out this, like, fundamental limitation of just relying on our human capacity.
Right. Like, we're limited.
We're finite beings trying to understand this, like, potentially infinite universe.
Exactly. And we're using these limited tools of observation
and our brains, right.
Yeah, exactly. And our brains.
Which are also finite.
Right.
To try to wrap our heads around something so much bigger than us.
So if we can't just rely on verifying things to figure out what's real, what does Plantinga suggest we do?
Well, he has an alternative in mind. It's a little bit out there.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Lay it on me.
He calls it divine creative anti-realism.
Divine creative anti-realism. Okay, yeah, that definitely sounds like we're, like, moving into some serious metaphysical territory here.
Yeah,
Are we talking about, like, a traditional god here?
Yeah, basically, Plantinga's solution, it connects our minds to, like, this higher power and suggests that God's thoughts, they're actually the foundation of reality.
So instead of, like, my mind's creating my reality and your mind's creating your reality, it's like we're all tapping into this, like...
This one ultimate reality.
Yeah, this one ultimate reality that's coming from, like, a divine mind.
Yeah, like we're all accessing the same, like, source code in a way.
Okay, so it's like we each have our own, like, interpretation of it.
Right, we're all experiencing it.
But it's all coming from...
through our own individual lenses.
This one source.
But yeah, it's all originating from the same place.
Okay, that's a really interesting way to think about it.
It's a big idea.
It is a big idea, and it raises a lot of questions for me.
Sure.
Like, for one, does this mean Plantinga believes that, like, everyone who buys into this has to, like, follow a certain religion or even believe in God at all?
That's a great question. And Plantinga, he actually addresses that head on. Definitely. He doesn't think that his view forces theism on anyone.
Oh, okay.
He sees it more as, like, presenting another way to think about this relationship between our minds and reality. Like, it's an option that, you know, it fits within his framework, but it's not, like, a requirement to accept the idea that...
That our minds are shaping things.
That our minds are shaping reality,
Okay, so even if we're not, like, on board with the whole divine creator thing, we can still consider this possibility that our minds are influencing the world around us.
In ways that we don't fully grasp yet.
Yeah, in ways we don't fully understand.
It's a profound idea, and it has, like, these huge implications.
It does, yeah.
Think about, like, scientific knowledge for a second.
Okay.
Like, if our minds are shaping reality, does that mean that scientific discoveries are...
a little less objective.
Less objective than we tend to think they are?
Right, because our biases are in there.
Exactly. Like, our biases, our preconceptions, they could be influencing what we choose to study, how we interpret our findings.
It's like that, what's it called? The observer effect in physics.
Yes.
But, like, on a way bigger scale.
Exactly. We're not just, like, messing with the results of a tiny experiment.
Right.
We're potentially messing with the whole, like...
The whole universe.
The whole universe. Yeah.
Man.
It's kind of a lot to take in.
It really is. And then there's a whole thing about, like, how this affects our own understanding of the world.
Absolutely. It makes us really examine... our perceptions, our biases, all those filters we're looking through.
It's both like really cool and really freaky at the same time.
It's big.
To think that like maybe our most deeply held beliefs about the world
Right.
might need to be like totally reevaluated.
Viewed through this new lens.
Yeah, this lens of like
Yeah.
mind-reality connection.
Exactly.
Well, Plantinga, he has given us a lot to think about.
A lot to unpack.
Yeah, for sure. This whole
Let's
idea
rabbit hole.
that our minds might actually be shaping reality.
Whether it's through, this divine connection or
Mhm.
just the power of like our own perception.
Right. It really makes you question like
Everything.
the limits of what we can know,
Mm-hmm.
the role of consciousness even.
And what is truth even?
Yeah, what is truth?
Big questions.
Big, big questions. So thank you, Alvin Plantinga,
Thanks, Plantinga.
for taking us on this wild ride
Down the rabbit hole.
into creative anti-realism and reminding us that like
Yeah.
sometimes the most fundamental questions are the ones that
We don't have easy answers for.
don't have easy answers for.
Yeah, they're journeys, not destinations.
And for all of you listening out there,
Keep those brains buzzing.
yeah, keep questioning, keep exploring,
Keep digging.
and we'll catch you next time on The Deep Dive.